Hello, citizens of Internet Town. Welcome to this, the 2024 Mercedes-Benz CLA 250 4MATIC. Today I'm going to get this entry model Merc up in the air, we're nerd out on the tech specs, see how it is constructed, and then go give it the beans. A CLA. I've been wanting to review one of these for the longest time now. Why is the muffler so far away? What is this magician sh**? I'll give it a second for this to process if you haven't noticed yet. That's nonsense. No fake tips. Stainless steel, manufactured by Tenneco. I'm guessing the heat shield's removable, but geez, that really complicates your options for aftermarket exhaust. The base CLA 250 is front-wheel drive. This one, however, is opted with the optional 4MATIC all-wheel drive system, and it is paired with a Magna Performax dual-clutch rear differential unit that has torque vectoring capabilities and a 3.46 final drive ratio. Out back, the CLA utilizes an all-aluminum in construction multi-link rear suspension with aluminum knuckles. You see there's some plastic arrow fins in the lower links. The front link and this additional fourth link actually are both steel. Hanjo and España. As far as the rear anti-sway bar goes, it measures in at approximately 22mm in diameter. This is now the second generation of the Mercedes CLA. It's codenamed C118 internally for you chassis code nerds, and this is a transverse all-wheel drive configuration weighing in at 3,616 pounds. Durable plastic. No cheap hairy cardboard under here. Oh, there's two. There's two resonators on the mid-pipe, both made by Tenneco, all stainless steel. And that mid-pipe measures in at 64mm in diameter, which is about 2.5-inch SAE. Aluminum chassis brace, which is conveniently also a mount for your exhaust hanger. Secondary chassis brace, stamped steel. Third chassis brace, which is also part of the bracket for your steering rack mount. Super easy to access for maintenance. If you look up here, you can just barely see the drive shaft mounted to the PTO for your all-wheel drive system. As far as the transmission goes for the CLA 250 4MATIC, there's only one option available, and it is the 8G DCT, which is a dry sump lubricated 8-speed dual clutch automatic transmission. Has a maximum torque input rating of 520 Newton meters, which is 383 pound-feet of torque. Quite a bit more than what this engine produces, which is a huge plus if you're going to modify one of these. Up front, like the rear, it utilizes an all-aluminum in construction McPherson strut with lower wishbone suspension. Weird! The front dampers are made in Slovakia instead of Spain, and they're made by Sox. Just like the rear, another aluminum knuckle up front. Front anti-sway bar, which is a treat to try to get to, measures in at 25mm in diameter. I want you to take a listen to this. That is solid. That is designed to take a hit. All right, it's time for the braking test. No one behind me. Ready? Here goes. All right. Yep. That's short. I was not expecting that out of these little brakes. A little bit of ABS feedback in the pedal, but it was firm, solid. It stayed planted in relatively short stopping distance. That braking was just made possible thanks to only a 2-piston caliper, but with a 13-inch or 330mm drilled front rotor, optional with the AMG Night package, and also optional and completely worth it in my opinion are these 19 by 7.5 with a positive 49mm offset Ronal alloy wheels. It's only $900 extra for a set of Ronals, and these things look so timeless. It reminds me of the OZ Super Turismo a little bit. They're wrapped in a set of 225/40 19-inch Bridgestone Turanza T005 tires. It's like a cross between a Terminator and a failed Bond agent. Functional aero on this optional AMG bumper. The optional grille package has about 10 billion Mercedes logos all over it. Plastic inner fender liners, oh that's nice. There's a little removable cover right here to change headlight bulbs. Let's get the hairy carpet. Technician friendly jack mounting points. Out back, things get a little bit smaller with a single piston caliper and a 12.6 inch or 320 millimeter solid rotor, no drilling back here. And the wheel and tire, square stance, same size as you get up front. In the name of science, I am now going to give it the beans. First, bolstering assessment. Ooh, the seatbelt hugs you. So doesn't the seats. Great bolstering. This one does have an added upgraded interior package. I really wish I could see what the base model seats are like. Does have those adjustable thigh bolsters. I love when cars have these. The seats are memory, power adjustable, and heated, as well as a heated steering wheel, but the button is hidden on the side of the steering column clamshell. It's also flat bottom and it's got the touch capacitive buttons right here. This upper menu controls your gauge cluster. And it's stereotypical Mercedes. There's lots of configurability. You can change how things look in here. Also, you can change how your heads-up display looks. You can put the rolling ball game. The same styling carries over onto your infotainment screen, which it's one giant panel of glass. As far as drive modes go, I have a little dynamic button across from your cameras. Press that and I go from comfort to eco to sport, individual, and then individual, you can tap on the little gear icon on your screen, and then you can configure your drive, your steering, your traction and stability control, and the sound generation. I also have some flappy paddles on the back of the steering wheel for the dual clutch gearbox. As far as traction and stability control goes, if I touch the little car icon on the top of the screen, it brings up a sub menu with all kinds of stuff in here, like a car wash mode if you want to ruin your paint job by bringing it through a touch car wash. If I touch ESP, can defeat my stability traction control. Let's see what this thing can do. Give it a little assistance, let it eat. Ready? Go. All right. Yeah, ooh. Got like a little overboost surge when it grabs a gear. I like that. That's good. This thing rips. Can I actually pop the hood, or is Mercedes gonna hide it on me? Ah, hood pop. Hood struts, yay. That is interesting. Okay. Underneath the hood of the 2024 Mercedes CLA, other than a dirty little stowaway, is the M260, which is a 2-liter dual overhead cam, direct injected turbocharged 4-cylinder that produces 221 horsepower at 5,500 RPM, 258 pound-feet of torque from 1,800 to 4,000 RPM. ECU is bolted directly to the top of the air box that must help with cooling. And as you see, my colleague here is mistaking this box as a jacuzzi. That is actually the location to hook up jumper cables because the battery is in the rear. Digging in a little bit deeper on Mercedes M260, this is essentially the transverse layout configured version of Mercedes M264, which is found in their rear-wheel drive longitudinal version of the C-Class. Now this has a die-cast alloy block and head, 1991 cc's, with an 83 by 92 millimeter bore and stroke and a 10.5:1 compression ratio. Moving up into the cylinder head, it has Mercedes Camtronic variable valve system with lift, and bolted directly to the front of it is a single twin scroll turbocharger. See the metal charge pipe right here, right next to the intake pipe. It then flows into a water to air charge cooler mounted to the side of the cylinder head, has its own little reservoir right here for the coolant. Does this engine cover come off easily, or is it bolted down? Oh, no, I can take it off. There's not a whole lot to see with that cover removed. It does have an aluminum valve cover. You can see the fuel rail right here for that direct injection system. Throttle body is in the back, which honestly, this layout does make it a little bit easier for maintenance having your turbo up front, but does kind of push heat back throughout the engine bay. It's quite the extensive engine mount. Now, additionally, this also has a mild hybrid system, and its primary function is for fuel efficiency, but it does give you a little oomph of extra torque down low. Time to take this thing for a rip. I've always said it's good to start with a car's base model and test that. That way you can get a feel for the core components of the car itself before driving the top, most highest end version of it, because there's ways that you can mask and hide the underpinnings of a car with upgraded components in the top model. I definitely can see with the base CLA, there is room for it to improve up to the AMG version. And not saying that this is bad, I'm just saying this is a car that is likely greatly improved as it moves up through the model range versus just being amazing at its core lowest level. It's not exactly what I would call light, but it's not heavy. Definitely not by modern standards. You can feel a tiny bit of it, tiny bit of the weight, but that could easily be corrected with upgraded suspension, which this doesn't have any of the upgraded suspension packages. It's a fixed rate damper. Manual mode is extremely engaging and fun in this thing because it's a dual clutch. It's got a good power band. It kind of starts to taper off towards redline, so there's really no advantage to winding this thing all the way out to the top of the rev range. But it's got nice torque down low and still has pretty good shove in the middle. This car would probably be phenomenal in the AMG version, or if you were just to modify the 250. Even though I'm yelling at my camera because I just get excited when I film car reviews, it's quiet in here. There's not very much road noise, other than I have the HVAC on right now, so you hear the fan blowing a little bit. You don't really see a ton of these, at least where I live. You don't see a ton of these on the road, and I feel like this is a car that's kind of overlooked and shouldn't be. While it is front-wheel drive bias, it is a transverse mounted drivetrain configuration. It feels fairly neutral. I don't ever really feel like it's a front-wheel bias. At least I haven't been able to detect it. I'm not on a racetrack really pushing this thing, but it does feel fairly neutral. For this being the base suspension, like I said, it's good, but there's room for improvement. But also, if you're buying this because you are a car enthusiast and you do want to modify it, it's great because this opens up the window for you to choose whatever type of coilover or damper that you want to put on it. If you don't like doing that stuff, then I can see the argument for going with the upgraded suspension package. Another appeal about the CLA for me is the size of the car. This just feels like the right size of vehicle. It feels like the size of cars that they were 10 to 15 years ago because everything's gotten so massive lately. Yeah, on the interior, it doesn't feel cramped in here. I mean, there's still a ton of room between me and the door, so it gives that feeling of safety. So this is fun. You open the trunk just like a GTI. This thing's got a massive trunk on it for being a little car. It is huge. And underneath here, a little air compressor, a subwoofer, the car's battery. This is soft lined little storage area. That's pretty sweet. Oh, neat. It's got the feet thing too. Whoa, it has Mercedes stamped on the bottom side of it. Neat. I just noticed this for the first time. The door cards are actually gray. The suit is not black. It's got the ISOFIX sandwich hooks. These seats have a massive cut to the back of them, which gives a ton of leg room. Don't mind my broken nail, I actually work for a living. It looks like a mosquito's face. Its little sucker and its eyes. The headroom, it's not bad in the center, but over here at the edge of the car, oh, it's soft. It's super soft and padded. So I just stick that in there? I guess so. It doesn't quite look right when you store it there, but I don't know, my elbow just clicked. Holder, well, this is cute. It looks biomechanical, like it's a little plant. It looks like the inside of a flower maybe. Back's plastic, that feels kind of cheap. Attention to detail. This little plastic hook, soft open. The car's yelling at me not to forget my key. I'm in the back seat. If there's one thing I could say about this interior is that I think it'll age well. It's just very classy and kind of timeless looking inside here. The vents look retro and modern at the same time. Flat bottom steering wheel, a piece of dust flying by. I like that they put the auto stop start button directly under the engine start button so it's easy to find. This one's got brushed aluminum trim on the dash and the door cards. Wireless charge cubby. There's a random little shelf right here in your center console. Power fold mirrors. Infotainment system menu is super easy to navigate. Typical Mercedes. I want to show you one of my favorite things about this. The fact that it has a dual clutch gearbox. Now when I go to take off, listen very carefully. I don't know if you can hear it as well as I can, but you can hear the clutches disengaging and engaging when you're driving this car at low speeds, and you can feel them like you could in a manual transmission. And that's why I love dual clutch gearboxes. A lot of people complain against it and they're like, oh, that's very harsh and jerky, and they want a slush box feel of a traditional automatic, but I like that about a dual clutch. I like feeling what's going on. It's kind of like flying on a C-130. That analogy probably didn't help you any. Either way, that's one of the aspects I like about this car, and some people might complain about it. I love it about this. Also, something I'd normally complain about is fake sound generation. I typically don't like it unless it's done well, if it enhances the natural sound of the car. And that's what this does, just like the Golf R. I give it a little throttle. And you can still hear the valve train and the natural grunt of this 2-liter without any fake sounds imposed going on. I don't know if imposed is actually a word. It's like if a chimp was in a symphony. Anyway, I'm going to put it into sport now. And it's the same sound, just enhanced and amplified, and it sounds good. The fuel economy for this being all-wheel drive and the type of performance that you get out of it is great, and it's a car that does reward you if you baby it, but also you'll feel it if you're in the beans constantly. The sweet spot about the CLA 250, if you don't add any options to it, it's a great competitor for that new WRX TR that it just came out with. I mean, yeah, we did lose the Mitsubishi Evolution in 2015, but we gained the CLA 45 AMG in around the same time-ish, and that to me is another fair competitor for the Subaru, except there is no STI anymore. So if you want an STI, buy an AMG CLA. You eating some good grass? Hey, BBs. Hi. Hello. It's licking the hood. Thank you for the car wash. I appreciate it. It is now time to give this thing some scores, starting with the bean score, the assessment of the feeling you get in your gut when you give it the beans. And the CLA 250 4MATIC gets a rating of... Next is the cookie score, the assessment of value, and this thing with an excessive amount of options added to it, raising the price up over $60,000, is getting a rating of... Personal advice, don't go crazy with the options on these things. The Rono wheels, that'll make an exception for that, but this thing where it starts at 45 grand, that in itself is great value. Next is the wrench score, the assessment of ease of maintenance, and I'm actually going to give it a rating of... Followed by the squid score, the assessment of handling, and it gets a rating of... Lastly is the penguin score, the assessment on how much I personally like a vehicle, and a CLA gets a rating of... That score would be higher if this was the top shelf AMG version, and in my mind, that is the best product that Mercedes makes, even though I've never driven one before. I really like the CLA though. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. I'll see you soon with another. Bye!